Is a novice missing work without authorization? Do you mean me? Emily, the department manager, was on the other end of the line. What was this about not getting authorization to skip work? What? The job was not given to me? What? It sounded like I should have attended the orientation based on Emily's speech, but I wasn't joining this company. Therefore, I had nothing to do with today's orientation. Emily then made an astounding statement. I carried on working despite her directive to attend the orientation. After that, I received a call informing me that she had arrived at my place. Emily was in my living room, bouncing her leg anxiously, obviously irritated, as I hurried home. Why in the world are you coming to my residence in this manner? You failed to attend the orientation. The boss is enraged now. Where's James, is all he says. Bring him here. I will never work for Emily's company, regardless of what she says. However, it appears that she has come to try to recruit me once more. I'm James Williams, a 43-year-old former employee. More precisely, I was employed until the company I'd worked for since high school abruptly went bankrupt last month. I had been employed at a small factory that produced machine parts and had around 30 workers. We had consistent customers and revenue despite being a small business. However, several thugs defrauded the corporation of its land, and it suddenly failed. The boss's weakness and kindness were the direct causes, and the land the company was on belonged to those goons. It was too late by the time we workers recognized what was going on, and the business fell apart before we knew it. I was compelled by this to hunt for a new employment. However, I had never really conducted a proper job hunt previously, having graduated from a technical high school. When my friend Mike told me my company is hiring mid-career professionals, I was completely lost. Why don't you attempt it? I chose to take the admission exam for Mike's company since I wanted a job right now because I have a wife and children. You will likely start in April if you're recruited now. Therefore, you will need to go to the orientation. It makes me laugh to think of you, an elderly man among all those recent graduates. Even though I hadn't been employed yet, it was a little intimidating to think of going to the orientation with all those young men. I didn't think that was humorous at all, but Mike laughed as if it were the funniest thing ever. Mike's company employs over 200 people, making it a respectable size. Every year they hire about 20 recent graduates, and the thought of me, an older man, joining them made me shiver. There's no way you won't get hired. As long as you don't oversleep on the day of the interview, you're good. It had been 25 years since my last interview, so I'd forgotten all the basics of interview etiquette. With a lot of anxiety, I headed into the recruitment exam. There were a few other mid-career applicants, and the interview was held in 2 rounds. The first round was a group interview with Emily Thompson, the female department manager. The other applicants were talking about their reasons for wanting to join, and finally it was my turn. Oh, you're fine, huh? Emily didn't even ask for my reason for applying, and she crumpled up my resume and threw it at me. Do you seriously think someone with just a high school diploma can get into our company? Know your place. Besides, who would hire someone from a 30-person company that went bankrupt? Everything she said was true. But if she didn't want to hire me, she could have just sent a rejection notice. There was no need to say all this in front of the other applicants. I thought I'd like to use my experience to... Experience in a small bankrupt company? That's worthless. Get out of here right now. Listening to you is a waste of time. Emily wasn't interested in hearing anything I had to say. I knew there was a chance I wouldn't get the job, but I never thought they wouldn't even give me an interview. Nervous from having my first interview in years, I left the interview room without saying a word. 3 months passed after the interview. One day I received a call from an unknown number on my phone. Hello? Hello? Don't hello me. Today is the orientation day. A newbie skipping orientation without permission. Are you kidding me? The person on the phone was Emily. Hearing her voice for the first time in 3 months made me feel completely drained. Her voice was high-pitched and I really couldn't stand it. But more importantly, I was puzzled by what she said. Skipping orientation without permission? What was she talking about?
Huh? I didn't get the job.
But from the way Emily was talking, it sounded like I was supposed to be at the orientation. But I wasn't joining this company, so today's orientation had nothing to do with me, or so I thought.
As I tilted my head in confusion.
That's impossible. You're James Williams, right? The CEO is looking for you. Your name is on the list of new hires. Indeed, I am James Williams. But 3 months ago, I didn't even get a proper interview. Could it be that Emily didn't remember? I hadn't even told Mike that I failed the interview. Part of the reason was that what Emily said to me was pretty harsh, and I felt awkward about telling Mike. Since Mike was the one who encouraged me to apply for the job, I didn't want to make him feel bad.
Are you sure there's not a mistake?
I remembered that Emily was my interviewer and I was definitely rejected. I decided to keep quiet about not even being given the chance to speak. Right after the interview, I had been filled with anger and despair. But after 3 months, I didn't care anymore.
There's no mistake. Just get to the orientation right now. She cut me off and abruptly hung up the phone.
Even if she tells me to go to the orientation, I'm at work. Work? Right now? Actually, right after that interview, a contact from a company I used to do business with reached out to me, and I landed a new job. It's a company that had always taken care of me, and the work aligns with what I've been doing. Right now, I'm busy working on an order that came in. I only picked up the phone because it happened to be my lunch break. I let out a small sigh and started eating the lunch my wife had made for me, thinking that I really didn't want to get dragged into any trouble. As I continued working, ignoring Emily's order to go to the orientation, the factory manager looked at me with a somewhat puzzled expression.
Is something wrong?
Well, it's just that your wife called and she wanted me to tell you that someone named Emily is at your house.
But
The factory manager looked just as confused as I felt. My wife probably didn't understand what was going on either. But there was only one person that came to mind when I heard the name Emily. It had to be Emily Thompson. I asked the factory manager to let me go home and handle the issue. On my way back home, I called my wife, and she told me that Emily was in our living room. She explained apologetically that the doorbell had been rung furiously, and when the person claimed to be from my company, she let her in. Of course, it wasn't my wife's fault at all, but Emily was being completely unreasonable. When I got back home, I found her in the living room bouncing her leg impatiently, clearly frustrated.
what do you think you're doing barging into my house like this?
It's your fault for not showing up at the orientation. Now the CEO is furious. All he keeps asking is, where's James? Bring him here. I hadn't even made it to the final interview, so I'd never met the CEO. Hearing that the CEO wanted to meet me didn't really affect me at all.
Don't you recognize my face?
Judging by Emily's reaction, she had completely forgotten that she rejected me during the interview. I get that it must be hard to remember every single applicant, but how can she not recall someone she insulted so harshly?
Of course I don't remember. And you should be apologizing to me right now. Apologize? You skipped the orientation without permission.
She stomped her foot furiously, and I noticed my wife glancing at her with surprise. My wife, who is now a stay-at-home mom, used to be a successful career woman at a large corporation. She's likely dealt with all kinds of people, but I bet this is the first time she's seen someone this out of line, showing up unannounced and throwing a tantrum. As I told you over the phone, I didn't pass your company's hiring process. You were my interviewer and you rejected me. I used to work at a small company with only 30 employees that went bankrupt suddenly. You mocked me and didn't even bother to listen to what I had to say. Hearing this, Emily's expression suddenly changed, as if she was just now recalling the events of that day. She blinked repeatedly, clearly flustered and lost for words. I thought maybe she would leave quietly now, but her first words were far from what I expected.
I don't know anything about that.
Huh?
I'm telling you, I never said that.
It seemed like she wasn't going to admit that she rejected me. She was determined to stick to her story of not remembering. You have records from the interview, don't you? I didn't even get a proper interview, so my file should be pretty much blank. I don't know anything about that. Anyway, you're an employee at our company. The CEO is asking for you, so you need to start coming to work tomorrow. Her argument was so outrageous, I was at a loss for words. Emily was red in the face, clearly furious. But I was the one who wanted to be angry. You say I should start work tomorrow, but I already have a job at a different company. Emily looked at me in disbelief, and I let out a sigh. Did she really think I'd remain unemployed for 3 months? How long was this farce going to continue?
No matter what she said, there was no way I was going to start working at her company tomorrow.
You keep saying the CEO is asking for me, but I didn't even make it to the final interview. Doesn't the CEO know I was rejected during the group interview? I think you've got the wrong person.
That's impossible. He definitely said James Williams.
She truly had no idea what was going on and just came here because she was told to. The fact that someone like her is a department manager speaks volumes about the company. Sorry, Mike, but I'm glad I didn't get into this company. James Williams is a common name. Maybe you've mistaken me for someone else. Either way, I'm not going to your company, so please inform the CEO of that. Wait a minute. Our CEO is really scary. If I go back without you, who knows what kind of punishment I'll face? Come to think of it, Mike did mention that the CEO was intimidating. He's a very strict person with old-school values. Mike said he tries to convince people with a tough-it-out mentality, arguing that things should be done a certain way just because that's how they were done in the past.
Since Mike's always been involved in sports teams, maybe he doesn't mind, but it definitely feels outdated to me.
Whether you get punished or not doesn't concern me. What does concern me is that you're bothering my wife. I need to get back to work now, so could you please leave?
Wait. Just come to the company with me. If I don't bring you back, I don't know what they'll say.
Emily was on the verge of tears. But I had also gone out of my way to be here by asking the factory manager for a favor. I had no sympathy for her, and just wanted her out of my house as soon as possible.
If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. You can't be serious.
I dragged Emily, who looked like she still had more to say, out of the house and told my wife to lock the door. I then immediately got into my car and left her sitting on the ground as I headed back to work. A week passed since Emily stormed into my house. There hadn't been any contact since then, which felt a bit suspicious, but I tried not to think about it too much.
Then I received a message from Mike. Sorry for the trouble she caused you.
There was something about the tone of the message that felt a bit off. Mike and I had been friends since middle school, and we were on the same sports team, so we were pretty close. Maybe he wasn't too happy that I took a job at another company without telling him. As these thoughts crossed my mind, I continued with my busy days. One day, while I was working, the factory manager walked over to me again with that same troubled look on his face. It was like déjà vu from a week ago, and I frowned.
Is there something wrong again?
Well, there are 2 people causing a scene in front of the main office demanding to see you. The COO, Ken, wants you to come over immediately. I work at a factory, and the main office is about a 10-minute drive from here. Ken is the COO of our company. If they're asking for me, one of the people causing the scene must be Emily. I had no idea who the other person could be, but I wondered how much more trouble they were planning to cause for my company. I told the factory manager I'd head over right away and stop my work to go to the main office. When I arrived, I was quickly ushered into the COO's office. As expected, Emily was there, along with an unfamiliar middle-aged man and a visibly exhausted Ken. I apologize for the trouble, Ken. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this has caused. I started by apologizing to Ken, then turned to face Emily and the man. What do you think you're doing? Showing up at the main office like this is completely inappropriate. You're absolutely right. What James is saying is spot on. The unfamiliar man spoke up. When I squinted and tilted my head in confusion, the man immediately handed me a business card. It read, Company, Tom Smith, CEO. I'm the CEO who asked to see you. I've heard about you from Mike and wanted to bring you into our company. The image of the CEO that Mike had described to me was so different from the reality that I was taken aback. I had expected someone much stricter, someone who was always angry, but that didn't seem to be the case. I'm so sorry for what happened during the interview. This woman acted on her own, and I hope you can forgive us. I'll be firing her immediately. I was stunned by how casually Tom mentioned firing Emily. It was clear that his sense of right and wrong was somewhat skewed if he thought firing her would make me want to join the company. While it's true that I applied to your company and attended the interview because I was interested, I no longer have that desire. I'm happy with my current job and I genuinely want to work hard for this company. Although I can't forget what was said to me during the interview, I've come to realize that maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Forget about this small company? It's not worth your time. Tom abruptly cut me off, dismissing my words. Even though Ken was standing right there, he didn't hesitate to insult our company. He must be extremely confident in his own company to say such things. It's a waste for someone as talented as you to work for such a small company. How much are they paying you? We'll offer you 5 times that amount. Plus, I'll give you a senior position. Offering to quintuple my salary was quite a bold move. Tom's eyes were red with determination, clearly willing to do whatever it took to bring me on board. Meanwhile, Emily was sitting silently next to him, her face pale. She must have just realized that she was about to lose her job. Of course you're getting fired. How else are you going to take responsibility for rejecting James on your own? Tom's shouting was so intense that it seemed like he was about to grab Emily by the collar. There's no way I could work under someone like him. But with all due respect, he's only a high school graduate, and he came from a company with only 30 employees. That company suddenly went bankrupt too, so I'm not sure if he's suitable for a large corporation like ours. Emily, desperate to avoid being fired, said this with a nervous smile. Given my background, it's understandable that some might see it as problematic, but I think she's underestimating a company with 30 employees a bit too much. You really don't get it, do you? Do you even know that the machine parts made by that bankrupt company are used all over the world? And what's more, the technology to make those parts was patented, so no other company could produce them. The reason my old company only had 30 employees was precisely because of that. The machine parts, our main product, had massive sales and were exported worldwide. The technology to make those parts was patented, meaning the parts were fully automated with no human intervention needed. That's why we didn't need many employees. Since over 90% of our sales came from those parts, they were produced automatically every day. The company that made those parts was the only one capable of doing so. There were no competitors. It was a one-horse race. The parts we made were used in almost all precision machines. For example, the computer right there probably has one inside it. Few people have seen the parts themselves, but without them, machines wouldn't function properly. I might sound a bit arrogant, but there are many parts like that. They're embedded in most machines, and without them, the machines wouldn't operate correctly. That's pretty common. What made my company special was that we were the only ones who could produce those parts. When that company suddenly went bankrupt, the partner companies must have panicked. There was a lot of focus on which company would own the patent rights moving forward. There were so many machines that couldn't be made without those parts. In fact, when rumors started spreading that our company was going bankrupt, we were bombarded with inquiries every day. We received many orders from companies wanting to buy up all the remaining stock, so it was really hectic at that time. Given such sales, you might think we could have continued the business elsewhere even if the company's land was taken by the thugs. But the real reason for the bankruptcy was that the boss was tricked by a friend and ended up with massive debt. And since the money was borrowed from a loan shark, the situation was even worse. The boss was completely under the control of thugs and was in no position to continue running the business.
So what happened to the patent technology?
Initially, The company owned the patent rights, but they were transferred to the developer, James, as an individual. Hearing Tom's words, Emily gasped. Anyone listening to the story up to this point would understand the significance of this. I am now the only person in the world who holds the rights to produce the patented parts that generate huge profits. In that case, any company would want to bring James into their own organization. The rumor quickly spread that James had no intention of starting his own company. I'm not cut out to be a business owner. I'm grateful to have been granted the patent rights, but I prefer the freedom of working as an employee and focusing on design. You could say I lack ambition, but becoming a business owner would mean I couldn't freely create the things I love. I want to be a designer for the rest of my life. I agree that it would have been great if we could have brought in someone like him. But don't we have Mike? He's designing machine parts too. I don't think we need to be so fixated on James. Mike is definitely in the machine parts division. He mentioned that he does design work, and from the conversations we've had, it's clear that he's highly knowledgeable. That's not the point. James was supposed to join our company on Mike's recommendation. Normally, he could have been hired without an interview, but Mike insisted that if it was seen as a favor, it would make things difficult for James, so we conducted a formal interview as a formality. You should have been informed of this.
Informed? I don't know anything about that.
Watching Emily's flustered response, Tom clicked his tongue in frustration. Don't say you don't know. I sent an email to all the hiring managers with James's resume attached, instructing them to ensure he made it to the final interview. I definitely sent it to you too. Hearing this behind-the-scenes company talk made me feel uneasy, but it's probably a common story in large companies. It's inevitable that some people are hired through connections. Even though interviews are conducted, it's not unusual to hear that the decision to hire someone has already been made.
Did you not check your email?
I was too busy to look at it, so I had the same email sent to my subordinates. They would notify me of anything important.
What kind of workflow was that? Tom seemed to think the same thing and looked more exasperated than angry.
So you're saying that if I send an email to you personally, it won't be checked, and you call yourself a manager? You should be ashamed.
I'm sorry.
Even from an outsider's perspective, Emily's work performance was terrible. It's amazing that such a careless way of working hasn't led to any major mistakes so far. James, I sincerely apologize for this. I'll fire this foolish woman immediately and impose whatever punishment you see fit. So please, I'm begging you, join our company. Tom sincerely tried to convince me to join his company. Honestly, I didn't expect him to still be asking me to join the company after all this. His persistence made me feel uneasy.
Is there a particular reason why it's so important for me to join? When I asked this, Tom's eyes darted around for a moment.
Well, the thing is, I was so sure you'd join our company that I told various clients we'd be selling the patented parts to us, and most of them have already paid the contract fees.
His words left me speechless. In other words, he sold the parts that I hold the rights for, even though I'm not with the company.
Ken, who had been silently listening, looked exasperated. So you see, we're in big trouble if you don't join us, James. We only realized this when we noticed your absence at the orientation. If you don't join our company, the financial loss could be significant. As he spoke, Tom's face grew paler and paler. I don't know how much he sold, but the parts I hold the patent rights for are relatively high priced. There's no doubt it would amount to a considerable sum, and the clients are likely progressing with their work on the assumption that the parts will be delivered. It's too late for his company to say they can't fulfill the orders now. This is all because of Emily's interference. Do you have any idea how serious this is? But you can't blame me for that, James. Forget this company and come to ours. Tom said he'd pay you 5 times your current salary, so it's not a bad deal, right? Emily looked desperate, her face drenched in sweat. If I don't join their company, they're definitely in a tight spot.
You keep talking about paying 5 times, but do you even know how much he's currently earning? Huh?
Ken sounded a bit irritated. Offering to pay 5 times my salary means they greatly underestimated what I currently earn. It seemed to have annoyed him.
Oh, are you trying to say that you're paying him a decent amount?
Even so, it can't be more than $3,000 a month, right? We're a bigger company, so we'd offer $15,000 for someone as valuable as James. Indeed, $15,000 a month is an extraordinary sum. It's almost unheard of for an average employee.
Tom's words made Ken sigh quietly. $30,000.
The expression disappeared from Tom's face in an instant. He repeated the question, but he had clearly heard what was said.
That's the salary we pay James. We pay him $30,000 every month. Month? What? $30,000? That's impossible.
Both Tom and Emily were stunned. The $15,000 they mentioned earlier was impressive, but this was an amount far beyond that, leaving them at a loss for words. Are you underestimating James' value? Since he joined our company, our monthly revenue has increased by 200 times. Orders are coming in from all over the world, so it's only natural.
In that case, don't you think it's fair that James' salary is this amount? You mentioned paying 5 times the salary earlier, right? So would that be $150,000? That's paying $150,000 to a single employee is out of the question.
Tom, unsure of what to do, ground his teeth and glared at Emily. How are you going to fix this? If James doesn't join our company, the losses will be catastrophic, and we'll have to pay damages. Do whatever it takes to bring James into our company. His words were nothing more than a desperate outburst. Realizing that I might not actually join, he had completely lost his composure.
I can understand how he feels, but it's not something to say in front of Ken.
Emily, still being yelled at by Tom, was completely bewildered, not knowing what to do. The situation had turned into a nightmare, and even I was starting to feel drained.
I really wish they'd stop bothering Ken any further.
At that moment, Tom's phone rang. He hesitated for a moment, but then answered the call.
But
as he listened, Tom began to tremble uncontrollably. His face turned pale to the point that it was worrying.
What happened? Mike is resigning. What? Mike?
Could it be my friend Mike? I hadn't heard anything about him quitting the company. But why would he? But isn't he the ace of the machinery division? There are many parts that only he can create, and I'm sure some of our clients signed contracts with our company just because of him. It seems that due to this whole fiasco, he's completely lost faith in our company. He said he can't forgive Emily for the terrible things she said to his friend, James.
What?
Tom was so drained that he didn't even have the energy to get angry, slumping down in despair. With the ace of the machinery division, Mike, resigning and the company saddled with a large number of undeliverable orders, the situation was nothing short of hopeless.
This is all your fault? Everything? All of it is your fault? How do you plan to take responsibility? What are you going to do if our company goes bankrupt? I never thought it would come to this. What should I do?
As Emily continued to be blamed, she finally broke down in tears. Seeing her cry like a child was nothing short of irritating. Even Ken looked exhausted, letting out a sigh. This is your problem now, isn't it? It's about time you leave. I've taken time off work to be here, and I don't have time to waste on this.
Wait! No! Please! I'm really sorry. Please come to our company. As Emily clung to me, sobbing, Ken pulled her away.
Don't touch our valuable employee. I'm actually relieved you're so incompetent. The thought of James joining your company gives me chills. With that, Ken called for security. The security guards arrived quickly and unceremoniously escorted Emily and Tom out of the company, finally bringing this chaotic situation to a close. It goes without saying that Emily was immediately dismissed with cause, but the company itself also suffered significant damage. First, there was the issue with the parts I held the patent rights to. Tom quickly contacted the clients to apologize, but they were, of course, furious. The parts were essential for manufacturing their products, and now that they couldn't be delivered, the clients faced massive losses. Naturally, the clients demanded substantial compensation from Tom's company. Furthermore, with Mike's resignation, many clients reportedly terminated their contracts as well. While Tom's company managed to avoid bankruptcy, they suffered severe losses. Emily, not only fired but also slapped with enormous compensation claims, was left with nothing. Knowing Tom, he probably demanded a mercilessly high sum. In an instant, Emily lost her job and was saddled with crushing debt, leading her husband to leave her, resulting in a divorce. Even if she wanted to find another job, the news of this incident had already spread throughout the industry, leaving no company willing to hire her. It's rumored that Emily, deep in debt, even turned to loan sharks and was seen living in a park, homeless. It seems likely that Emily, whose life had plunged into a living nightmare, would never be able to lead a normal life again. As for me, I'm still working at Ken's company today. After that fiasco, something good happened. Mike joined our company. Of course, it was I who recommended Mike to Ken. Ever since I heard in the CEO's office that Mike was resigning, I knew that if he joined our company, he would be an immediate asset, bringing in significant profits. But more than that, I just wanted to work with Mike. Now, we meet every day to co-design machine parts. Working together, I've discovered that Mike and I have slightly different areas of expertise, and every day brings new discoveries. At this stage in my life, I never thought I'd be so excited about work again. From now on, I'll be doing what I love, designing alongside Mike in this company.
Even heard her apologies. You believe that this can be resolved with an apology. You've been let go, or apologize while nude. There is a boundary, even for a fit of rage at his own sister, and he had obviously gone over it. I firmly squeezed my lips together. Everything is okay. Calm down, please. The car became quiet at what I said. I'm 30-year-old Ethan Miller. I am employed as a salesperson for a health food firm with its headquarters located in a provincial city in Tokyo. The CEO, who has a strong affection for his little town, had obstinately declined to have an office in Tokyo. However, this modest branch was created around 2 years ago after the senior managing director, the CEO's eldest son, persuaded them to offer their goods to businesses in Tokyo. Only 8 people work there, and it's a single story at a building's corner, a short distance from the station. Sophia Clark, the CEO's daughter, is the branch manager, not the senior managing director who had fought so hard for it. And there is a tight vibe in this branch today. There is a scheduled business meeting with a large corporation with its headquarters located in Tokyo. We are a relatively tiny corporation with a Tokyo location. Despite having a track record of sales in the provincial city where we have our headquarters and through internet sales, we are not well known in Tokyo. My accomplishment is the reason that such a company was given the chance to meet with a significant Tokyo company. However, it was really just a string of coincidental events. I woke up early that day for some reason, and I decided to walk to the office after getting off the train 2 stops early. I was strolling in a revitalizing mood, and the cool winter air felt nice. At that moment, I noticed someone crouched in front of me. I hurried over and gave the sweat-drenched person a back pat. It appeared to be a man in his 60s or 70s when I looked more closely. Sweat soaked his face as well. I offered the man an oral rehydration solution that I had taken from my backpack. Before I could even consider if it was acceptable for him to consume the entire plastic bottle at once, the man grabbed it out of my hand and drank it down greedily. After emptying the bottle, the man stayed in his crouched position for some time. However, after a few minutes, he turned to face me and grinned broadly. I was also relieved to see that smile. After finding walking to be rather disappointing, he moved to running, and it seems that his heart gave up. With an embarrassed head scratch, the man held up the empty bottle and extolled its virtues, declaring, "I've never tasted this before, but it's delicious." I clarified that, especially after perspiring, its zesty, revitalizing flavor gives you the impression that your entire body is being hydrated. It's one of my favorite products from our company. The man, listening to my explanation with a smile, pulled a business card from his jersey pocket. On it was the name of a company anyone would recognize, with a title, Chairman, written on it. He offered me a business meeting saying, "I'd love to recommend this to my employees." When I reported this to the head office, it was decided that I was too inexperienced to handle it alone. Of course, I understand that. I've only been working as a salesman at this Tokyo branch for a mere 8 months. This was not a deal I could handle by myself. So, to my surprise, the CEO and the senior managing director from the head office decided to join this meeting. Therefore, today was the most important day since the Tokyo branch's founding. A day to pick up the CEO and the senior managing director from the airport and head straight to the business meeting with the major corporation. On top of that, from the Tokyo branch, the branch manager Sophia would also be attending. This meant that our team for the meeting consisted of the founding family, CEO David Clark, Senior Managing Director Daniel Clark, and Tokyo Branch Manager Sophia Clark, and me, Ethan Miller, with only 8 months of sales experience. Well, shall we head to the airport, Ethan? Are you ready? Sophia's beautiful face looked towards me. A hint of nervousness was visible in her expression. I straightened my posture. "Yes, I'm ready," I replied, and Sophia gave a soft smile. "I know it's impossible not to be nervous, but this is a deal you secured, so just be yourself and let your personality shine as always." Her words made my heart tremble. Sophia always praises my personality. I don't have a grand personality, but I genuinely love our company's products and work with the desire to recommend them to many people. Sophia often tells me that this attitude is what captures people's hearts. I vowed to myself that today, no matter how big the other company was, I would, as always, introduce my beloved company's products without holding anything back. Waved off by the remaining members of the Tokyo branch, we headed to the parking lot. A pristine white sit-in owned by Sophia was parked there. "Come on, get in," she urged, and I sat in the passenger seat. "I'm sorry. I don't have a driver's license." When I bowed, Sophia smiled. "It's fine. You don't use cars much in Tokyo anyway." Saying that, Sophia straightened her back and placed her hands on the steering wheel. Just her profile was a picturesque sight. Sophia slowly started the car. First, we had to go to the airport to pick up David and Daniel from the head office. Sophia was driving with her eyes fixed straight ahead, but after a while, she spoke up. "Let me tell you a little about my family first." I nodded in agreement. I had met Sophia's father, David, once when I joined the company. I remember him as a well-built man with a dignified face. I was so nervous, I don't remember much. The CEO is a quiet type. He talks a lot at business meetings, but he's usually quiet, so I don't think he'll talk much in the car. But don't mind him. I swallowed hard. The car ride from the airport would have me as the sole outsider among the Clark family. It was impossible not to be nervous. "And about my brother Daniel?" Sophia hesitated, mumbling. "He's a bit strong-willed, and because I'm his younger sister, he can be harsh with me, but it's just how he is. So, I hope you won't mind that either." I let out a small laugh. Siblings don't hold back, do they? I have a younger brother too, and I can't count the number of nasty fights we've had. When I chuckled, Sophia let out a small sigh. "You're right. Family doesn't hold back when it comes to distance." The profile of Sophia as she said that, her lips pressed together, was somehow memorable. After picking up David and Daniel at the airport, the atmosphere in the car was instantly dominated by a heavy silence. It was as if my pleasant chat with Sophia had been a lie. In the back seat sat two grim-faced men, exuding an intimidating presence. I doubt they were trying to be intimidating, but I felt a strange pressure from behind me. Should I bring up a topic to liven things up? No, everyone else is family, so I shouldn't needlessly interject. As these thoughts went back and forth, I started talking sporadically about how much I use our company's products. David responded slightly, and from there, the conversation in the car became one where only he and I spoke, while Sophia and Daniel remained silent. I spoke while occasionally gesturing, looking at the rearview mirror, and behind me to be respectful to David. That's why I didn't notice the scenery outside the window and where we were headed. It seems to be that building. We still have about 20 minutes before the appointment. What should we do? While waiting at a traffic light, Sophia turned to the back seat, and Daniel opened the car window. Wow, that's a huge building. Wait, what? Daniel, who should have been looking at the client's office building, raised a suspicious voice and fumbled through his bag. Then he shouted, "Hey, this is Building 1. A sudden roar made my heart shrink. What? Sophia let out a small cry. The meeting today is in Building 2. It says right here. What's going on? I also hurriedly checked outside and couldn't help but click my tongue. The building towering before us was Building 1, which originally served as the headquarters. But I had heard they recently bought a well-located building that housed another company, designated it as Building 2, and were gradually moving their headquarters functions there. Today's meeting was supposed to take place in that Building 2. What? But I entered it into the GPS. It was then that Sophia realized her fatal mistake. The GPS was pointing to Building 1. I hadn't seen if Building 2 was listed as an option when Sophia entered the address, so I don't know. Perhaps the information hadn't been updated, and Building 2 wasn't even an option. Both Sophia and I knew the meeting was at Building 2, but the GPS had been guiding us to Building 1 the entire time. If I had paid attention to the scenery, I might have noticed, but I was so focused on my conversation with David that I wasn't that considerate. What should I do? As Sophia stood there bewildered, a merciless roar echoed. It's not, what should I do? What are you going to do? If a company like ours is late for a major meeting like this, the whole deal is off. Do you understand? At Daniel's roar, Sophia cowed. I am so sorry. Her apology, so deferential it was hard to believe she was speaking to her own brother, echoed softly. However, Daniel, acting as if he hadn't even heard her apology, raised his voice further. You think an apology is going to fix this? You're fired. Or get naked and apologize. Even for a burst of anger directed at his own sister, there's a line, and he had clearly crossed it. I pressed my lips together firmly. It's all right. Please calm down. First, turn right at the next intersection. The light turned green, and I spoke in a deliberately calm tone to Sophia, who had started the car. What? Sophia's face showed confusion, but I continued without pause. After turning right, take a left at the second intersection. It's a series of one-way streets, so even though the road is narrow, there won't be any oncoming traffic. Please drive calmly. From behind me, a disgruntled voice descended. Hey, it's all one-way streets. What do you plan to do going down a road like this? Daniel, who was likely looking at the GPS, interjected with a suspicious tone, but I cut him off sharply. If you don't have a solution, please be quiet. I'm concentrating. At that, Daniel became furious. Who do you think you're talking to? Daniel's words trailed off mid-sentence. I glanced back to see David silencing Daniel with his hand. Be quiet. With that one heavy word, Daniel fell silent. David also let out a quiet sigh. Sophia was still confused. Are you sure this narrow road is okay, Ethan? About my previous job in administration, I offered a small apology. I'm sorry. I did do admin work, but my main job was being a driver. At the interview, I lied and said I worked in administration at a shipping company. I'll explain that later. I've used these roads many times for deliveries. Taking a detour on the main road will take time. The old road gets congested at this hour. It's a difficult stretch with residential areas and shopping streets, but please trust me. At my words, Sophia bit her lip and looked forward. Okay, I trust you. Please give me directions. Seeing the determination in her eyes, I began to give Sophia the next direction. And so, 5 minutes before the meeting was scheduled to start, we somehow arrived at our destination, Building 2. We were rushed into the conference room, where I fluently explained our product. Honestly, I was worried I'd be too nervous to speak properly, but thanks to the earlier commotion, I finished my explanation without any tension at all. Compared to that heart-pounding race against time, explaining a product I love was a piece of cake. Daniel provided detailed supplementary explanations about the scientific basis. Sophia offered the product at the perfect time, and David, a complete change from the car ride, told several witty jokes, creating a relaxed atmosphere. Thanks to all that, the meeting was a great success, as if the ride there had been a lie. A cheerful atmosphere filled the car on the way back. In that atmosphere, Daniel hesitantly spoke up. I'm sorry about earlier. I lost my temper. Before he could finish his mumbled words, David sharply rebuked him. That's your bad habit. You panic in emergencies, and you said some terrible things to Sophia. Sophia cut in on her father's words. It's fine. It was my fault. I'm sorry. At Sophia's apology, Daniel scratched his head. I went too far. I'm sorry. I felt a little relieved at the heartwarming family exchange, but David still sighed with dissatisfaction. Honestly, the next co can't be panicking in an emergency. You need to mature a bit more mentally. Is there something on my face? David's suspicious voice made me curious, and I glanced at the back seat to see Daniel's eyes wide with surprise. The next co, isn't that Sophia? At Daniel's words, both David and Sophia let out a surprised, "Ha." I've been grooming you as my successor at the head office all this time, David said, to which Sophia pouted. That's right. I've been told to support my big brother all along, and I've been working hard to get results in Tokyo. A single tear fell from Daniel's eye. But Sophia is so talented, and she even became the head of the Tokyo branch that I had been pushing for. In short, he had been jealous of Sophia and at the same time felt that his own position was threatened. Is it okay for me to be listening to this conversation? Feeling out of place, I looked ahead, and Sophia gave a faint smile. I just worked hard at my studies, which I disliked, to support you, Daniel. That's what I was always told. At her slightly sad voice, David cleared his throat. If a family-run business relies on seniority, it will fall apart. I want you two as siblings to work together to make the company grow. At her father's words, Sophia grinned. Of course, I'm going to make the Tokyo branch as big as the head office. And with Ethan here, it's not just a dream, right? I was bewildered by the sudden mention of my name. At Sophia's challenging smile, Daniel laughed. Oh, that would be a great help. If that happens, our company will just keep getting bigger. Ethan, I'm sorry about earlier too. Please take care of the Tokyo branch. I couldn't even form words and just bowed. I'll do everything I can for this company. I renewed my resolve. With things to do at the head office, both David and Daniel ended up heading straight back to their hometown. After dropping them off at the airport and seeing them off, it was just Sophia and me in the car again. And then the question came. Why did you lie at your interview? Yes, that topic. I resigned myself and decided to talk about my past. I got my driver's license right after graduating high school and started working for a shipping company. At first, I did odd jobs while practicing driving in the city in a used car I bought, improving my skills. As I got older, I was entrusted with more jobs and became able to handle large trucks. But I requested to be in the delivery business. I preferred the delivery business where I could decide the route based on the day's cargo over route delivery where the path was mostly fixed. I was living a fulfilling life, prioritizing safe driving, when one day I slammed on the brakes for a boy who ran out in front of me. The boy, startled by the sound and the size of the truck, fell over. Although we barely avoided contact, the boy twisted his arm in a strange way when he fell and broke it. His mother was right behind him and apologized, saying it was her son's fault for suddenly running out. She said it was only this minor, because I was driving slowly enough for a residential area. But I couldn't forgive myself. I had fully anticipated that unexpected things could happen in a residential area on a holiday. I drove thinking that since I was behind the wheel of a truck every day, I couldn't be too careful, but I couldn't prevent it. I visited the child's house many times to check on him. His name was Leo Davis, and he was a very mischievous boy who loved cars, so I often brought small toy cars as a gift. His mother was apologetic at first, but gradually her face showed annoyance at my visits, and finally she told me, "Seeing your face reminds me of the accident, so please don't come back again." The shock of that moment is something I'll never forget. I felt like I had become friends with Leo. In fact, he cried a lot when I left. I thought that meant I was forgiven, but in reality, his mother couldn't forgive me. The thought that I had been thinking I was forgiven seemed ridiculous. I surrendered my driver's license and quit the shipping company. I thought I didn't have the right to drive, let alone make a living from it. More than anything, I had become afraid of getting behind the wheel. I realized that even if I was as careful as I could possibly be, accidents could not be completely prevented. So at the interview, I had already surrendered my driver's license, and I didn't want to be asked a bunch of questions. So I lied and said I was an office worker. I'm sorry. After finishing my story, I apologized while looking down, unable to look at Sophia's face out of guilt. Then Sophia pulled the car into a metered parking lot. When I looked at Sophia's face, puzzled, her eyes were filled with tears. What's wrong? As I panicked, not understanding what was going on, Sophia bowed her head. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She apologized over and over and my mind went blank. Huh. What? I'm the one who should be apologizing. As I tried to argue, Sophia cut me off. It was me. Sophia's words confused me even more. I was the one who told her to push you away. I told her to say, "Never come back." After saying that, Sophia turned her tear-streaked face to me. The person you had the accident with was my friend and her son. At that confession, my mouth fell open. What? No way. Why? Sophia sniffled and looked down. The mother's name is Emily Davis, right? I nodded. Sophia gave a faint, self-deprecating smile. Then it's confirmed. Emily came to me for advice. She said it was Leo's fault, too. But he keeps apologizing and bringing gifts every time, and I don't know what to do, so I told her to just push you away. You know how they say if you break up with someone harshly, they won't have any lingering feelings and can move on. I had just broken up with my boyfriend like that at the time, so I told her to do the same. And then Sophia bowed her head deeply to me. I'm sorry. Because of my irresponsible advice, you were driven to the point of surrendering your driver's license. I hurriedly shook my head. Please stop. It was my own decision. It's true. I couldn't forgive myself, but I would have surrendered it even without those last words. I was already too scared to get behind the wheel. Sophia let out a sob. How could I make her believe me? On an impulse, I rummaged through my bag. I took what I was holding in my palm, blew on it, and held it out in front of Sophia's face, opening my hand. On it was a small piece of paper that said, "Let's do our best every day with energy." When I was a delivery driver, I often made deliveries to our company. That's when I got a supplement from you, Sophia as a sample. It was about 2 months before the accident. She slowly lifted her head and looked at me. It had 3 pills, and I took one on the spot. It might have been my imagination, but I felt my fatigue just melt away. I felt it was a waste to take the other 2, so I saved them for a crucial moment. After surrendering my driver's license and quitting the shipping company, I was at a loss for what to do when the sample supplement rolled out of my bag, as if it was telling me to notice it. I thought this was the crucial moment, so I took the supplement. It's a supplement to energize the body, not something to energize the mind. And yet, I'm a very simple person. The moment I swallowed it, I felt a surge of energy. I couldn't stay down. I went straight to the job placement office and was surprised. There was a job opening for that company. I thought it was fate. I thought what I was meant to do with the rest of my life was to spread the product that had given me so much energy. I'm simple. So that's what I thought. I took the last pill right before the interview, and I was successfully hired. Since then, this supplement has been like a good luck charm for me. I take out the regular product I bought for myself from my bag and place 1 pill in Sophia's palm. I'm happy now. Today's meeting was a huge success. So please don't feel guilty and cheer up. And if it's okay, I'd like to see Leo again. For some reason, ever since then, whenever I see toy cars, I end up buying them, and I've amassed quite a collection. I might make his mother, Emily, feel awkward again, but I can't forget the way Leo cried his eyes out at the end. Sophia nodded over and over again. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please stop apologizing. I told you I'm happy now. When she still didn't seem convinced, I sighed. I am happy because right now I'm working for the woman I love, and today I was able to save that woman from a crisis. At my confession, Sophia's eyes widened. Huh? Me? I've just been confessed to by a man who wasn't even on my radar, was the look on Sophia's face, like a deer in headlights. I wanted to at least be on her radar before confessing, but I couldn't bear to see the sad face of the woman I was in love with anymore. I'll work harder, so please don't feel bad for me. I want you to see me for who I am. I looked directly into Sophia's eyes and said it. Sophia's cheeks turned red. I'll think about it. I smiled. For now, that was enough. Energized by the blush on Sophia's cheeks, I changed the subject. Come on, let's go back to the office. We have good news to report. Sophia hurriedly looked at the rearview mirror. Oh, right. What should I do? I can't go back to the office with a face like this. Saying that, she rushed out of the car and into a nearby convenience store, and I watched her with an affectionate smile. Several years have passed since then. I'm at a large park with my friend's family. My 2-year-old daughter, Chloe, is being gently led by the hand by Leo, who is now in elementary school, to the small children's playground equipment. I glance over at the lawn and see my wife, Sophia, and Leo's mother, Emily, chatting. They finished their lunches and are catching up. Since the children were clinging to Sophia and Emily and getting in the way, I took them to the playground. Emily's husband is at work today. I was planning to spend a lot of time with Leo as a father figure, but Leo offered to play with Chloe instead. My heart warms at his kind, big brotherly nature. I'm sure he'll be a kind big brother to the sister who is now in Emily's belly. It seemed like I had no chance with Sophia, but after my unintentional confession, she started to become aware of me. And when I pushed forward with a what-the-heck attitude, our relationship developed into a romance. It seems that the assistance of Emily, with whom I had been reunited through Sophia's arrangement, was more than effective. She would often say things like, "There's no one as sincere as him." And at other times, she even gave Sophia advice like, "He's persistent. So, if you don't reject him harshly, he won't give up." It's true that I kept visiting Leo until I was harshly rejected. So, I can't argue with that. Our relationship started with a push from both me and Emily. But honestly, I thought it would be okay to take it a bit slower. That's because I was convinced that Sophia would be my future wife. She was a friend of the parent and child who were a turning point in my life, the woman who gave me the supplement that gave me energy, and the branch manager of the company that was the first to catch my eye when I was looking for a new job. Even if we had missed each other somewhere along the way, she was the woman of destiny. I was bound to meet her. So, as I watched my beloved wife laughing with a trusted friend, I was able to spend all my time playing with Leo, whom I had become close enough with to be like family, and my beloved daughter, Chloe.